Okay, as we forgot to record from the beginning, I hope if it's okay with you to record now, because now we will hear the Hannah from the Harder for You project, and she will tell us more about.
Hi, can you see my slides? Perfect, great. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Zoe, for the React presentation. I'm very happy to be invited to present our project within this webinar. My name is Hannah Schweter, and I work at the chair of hydraulic engineering, also at the Technical University of Munich, who actually also has the project lead of the Hydro for You project. So we are called Hydropower for You, and we are focusing on demonstrating small sustainable hydropower technologies in Central Asia. From the title, you can already tell that in comparison, especially to the React project, we have this strong focus on hydropower development. So who are we? We are a consortium of 13 international partners, where we have partners from Europe as well as from Central Asia, here especially Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. We do have a large variety of partners as well, which includes research facilities, but also consulting companies, and of course our manufacturers for the hydropower technologies. We are an innovation action project, and we are now in the third year of the project duration, so that means kind of in the middle of our project duration, and we have already several milestones achieved, and most of the tasks are actually ongoing at the moment. What are our goals? We want to especially further develop, demonstrate, and assess the two small hydropower technologies in our project in the region of Central Asia. And we want to do that in a climate resilient manner, meaning that we include detailed climate change scenario analysis of the entire study area. And in order to enhance the exploitation of the small hydropower potential in Central Asia, we also implement a GIS-based decision support system. Within the context of the Water, Food, Energy, Climate Nexus, we develop a water accounting system, which helps to balance energy and agricultural benefits. Regarding our two hydropower technologies, of course, we want to enhance the competitiveness and as well the market uptake of these technologies. And finally, we want to enhance the awareness of hydropower, small hydropower development in general at the policy level, but also to the general public. Yeah, how do we want to achieve these goals? We are organized in 6 work packages, which can further be categorized into 3 main aspects. So we have first the analysis and assessment of the unexploited small hydropower potential in Central Asia, where we take into account hydrology, climate change, as well as morphology, ecology of the study area. This includes our first work package, which focuses actually on the calculation of the hydropower potential in the region, and the second work package, which focuses on the socio-economic part in the context of the water, food, energy, climate nexus. The second part, as we are an innovation action project, is the development and especially the implementation of the two hydropower technologies associated with different kind of methods. This includes the holistic planning of these two demonstration sites, and we then have in work package 3, which are where we have the main goals of actually further developing and improving the technologies. We then have the work package 4, which more focuses on the actually implementation and the method assessments. Yeah, finally, as we want to generate knowledge and tools to further use the experiences and the results of the project, we have 2 work packages focusing on replication, dissemination, and exploitation. And our work package 5 is actually the development of a replication guidance and decision tool. We also have further feasibility studies for 3 additional hydropower sites in there. And in our work package 6, which are dissemination and communication, we have the possibility to communicate, exploit the results, our technology, as well as all our applied methods and tools. Yeah, I now want to go a bit into detail regarding the two technologies, which are the kind of core of our project, starting with the hydroshaft power plant, developed for especially low heads, and it was also developed with a especially fish-friendly intake, which is now, as it was developed or further developed in the project, now available in a modular manner, which facilitates the implementation at the specific remote sites. This technology will be implemented at the Atbashi River in Kyrgyzstan, and we there have already an existing hydraulic structure, so we just will equip an existing structure with an hydropower plant there. The planning, as well as the completely detailed design of this hydropower plant, is already finished, and we hope that the construction will start in August this year. We will have a final capacity of 1.2 megawatts. Moving on to our second technology, this is the Francis container power solution, which is a Francis turbine, which is used for medium heads, so a bit larger heads than the hydroshaft one, which can be, or which is installed in a standardized container, meaning also we have this facilitated implementation at the site as it is a modular part of equipment as well. This technology is implemented at Chakimadan site in Uzbekistan, where we could already use existing infrastructure. So there was already an intake and an existing penstock there. This one can actually also be seen as a social project, especially since the power plant will be able to supply energy to this Uzbek enclave in an island mode. So we can really enhance the development of this remote area by this energy production. The capacity will be around 2 megawatts, as we have 2 containers installed there, and the construction is actually currently ongoing. The turbines are already at site, so we hope to take the power plant into operation within the next month. Yeah, going maybe a bit more into detail regarding the tools and methods, as we do implement 2 hydropower technologies, we also had to further develop methods to facilitating maybe the hydraulic design. For example, we use drone images to document the existing structures because we do not have that many drawings of the existing structure, but also the existing conditions to have a baseline for monitoring in the end. We additionally carried out detailed environmental studies to ensure the sustainable hydropower development. We accounted for local fish species. We accounted for possible climate change impacts, for example. Each hydropower plant is designed with an economic study as well. We also have a scenario-based impact assessment for each of those. And we especially focus in the end on replication and accounting of additional water uses with, in the end, the web-based decision support system, which will be developed, and also the water accounting system developed in the project. Yeah, and of course, we also have the replication. So we want, of course, to enhance the impact of the project in the region. So the project includes a replication strategy and also a replication guideline tool, which includes, for one thing, potential hydropower sites, but also helpful information for potential investors on policies, on methods, on tools, as a kind of summary of lessons learned within our project, as well as experience guidance, so we can help to replicate similar projects within the region. Yeah, this brings me actually to an end. I thank, of course, all our partners for their work and for their support. And if you're interested in our project, you can use this site here. You see we are on several social media platforms. You can find our website here. Feel free also to contact me and my colleague Saida, who is also taking part today, as well as our project coordination or our dissemination communication partners. You can find all information on the website. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Hannah, for telling us more about your project. So now, as we introduced our project and within that we are organizing this webinar, we wanted to introduce you a bit further to our speakers. So here is time for the role model session. And the first is Dr. Jinshui Huang, who will tell us a bit more about herself.
Yeah, I haven't prepared any slides for it, and I'm not used to introduce myself in this way, but okay, I'll tell you a little bit my story. Yeah, so I come from China and studied environmental engineering at Tongji University in Shanghai. And during my bachelor, I worked more on the water quality side and wastewater treatment. And then in my PhD, I turned my research interest into water quality modeling in rivers. So that's starting off my career. I'd say that I have the interest in not working in an experimental field, but more modeling. And after my PhD, or during my PhD, I did exchange in Germany, in Hamburg Center for Environmental Research, UFZ in Magdeburg, Germany. And then after my PhD, I thought about coming back to Germany to start my career again. Of course, that's a very difficult decision, but also with my personal reasons with my family. And then I moved back to Germany and started my first postdoc at UFZ again, mainly working on high frequency water quality data and modeling in agricultural river in Germany, focusing mainly on nutrients as nitrate. And then I got another fellowship, postdoc, global TUM postdoc fellowship at TUM. So moving again, but I thought that TUM is a good opportunity and great platform for me and for my career development. So yeah, I decided to move to Munich to start my career here. Yeah, and it was only 1 year postdoc fellowship in the beginning. I was working on urban water quality and an extreme event. And then, of course, you know that in Europe, you always need to write your own project or find the financing before having a permanent position. So REACT projects, one of the trials I did with proposal writing. And I was really proud that we made it together. Yes, and of course that leads to my research interest also, closely related to the topic of REACT, which is integrated water resources management and climate change. And this is really, I think it's really significant and important in the age of climate change. And we also know that technical solution is not the only solution. We also need policy, we need engagement, stakeholder engagement. We need more than only technology. So yeah, I'm really happy that now you see where I am right now. I think that's my story. I don't know if this is what to expect, but this is how I started my career and where I am now. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it with us. I think that will be really valuable to some of the students, young researchers, or maybe even experienced researchers who are going with the same path as you are. So, now we would like to hear more about Professor Nidhi Nadbala. Who is she? What is she doing worldwide? And yes, please tell us more about yourself.
Thank you, America, and to your colleagues, your platform, to have taken the opportunity to use the symbolism of International Day of Women in Science to spotlight the gaps and the needs in making global water governance, regional water governance, and national water governance a gender-inclusive agenda. With those words, maybe I'll give a line about what I have done in the past. So I'm a trained technologist. I worked on designing decision support systems as a part of my PhD using remote sensing tools in small island developing states. And when I joined my postdoc at IWMI, good to see that this is one of the partners into EMI in 2005. I realized that we are working with a group of people, social scientists, political scientists, and that was a realization for me that just being a technologist is not enough. It's only half the story. And to tell the complete story, we need to work collectively. We need to co-create. We need to co-design. And nice to see all these elements represented in the project. And since 2005, then I have transformed from being a technologist to a socioecologist to a socio-political scientist, and somewhere have lost a bit of identity, scientific identity, but for good. I don't regret that. And I'm going to give you, in the context of time, as we have 5 minutes, at least give you 5 or 6 points on the milestones that United Nations University, and you may wonder, is also a think tank of the UN. We work with UN agencies, but also with universities, member states to do at least 3 things. One is science policy interfacing, one science society interfacing, and then also capacity building, because we are the academic arm of the UN. And for the last 10 years that I've worked with UNU, we have also taken a focused attention on mainstreaming gender in research and at different levels. And I have particularly steered the work of taking gender into water resource and water security discussions at high level, but also in program activities, even the thesis proposals of our student who worked even from a hydrology perspective. So we have taken a very focused attention, because it was not an easy journey. And some of the things that we referred as a background was the Beijing Declaration, which was the 4th UN conference focused on women and the declaration was passed on 15th September 1995. That was a milestone in mainstreaming gender thinking across the development and sustainable development agendas and policies. So before that, gender was gaps was a social problem, but now it started to become a development problem. And when you talk about sustainable development, you have water management, food security, energy security, and all that larger portfolio that we see outlined in sustainable development goals, which I will not detail here, because I assume that all of you will know them by heart, as we do in the UN system. Another thing that I also wanted to put to notice that mainstream UN agencies like FAO also has looked into working on the water governance or the water food nexus or water agriculture nexus from a gender sensitive lens. One example that I will share as a part of the working group on WASAG, which is a forum to manage water scarce regions, working along with agencies and actors, works on understanding how water scarcity can also trigger forced migration and displacement of people, especially in vulnerable zones, like where there is too much water, floods and related events, or too little water, drying and desertification. So sort of also looking into how water-related challenges can catalyze migration, particularly in these communities. And as water becomes more scarcer, communities are forced to seek alternative habitats, alternative ways of income generation, and displacement and migration is also noted in the past years. And this is not just the story of global south or vulnerable countries, but we are increasingly seeing and noticing and hearing water scarce or water crisis stories in the developed world. For the past 3 years, we have been busy understanding how different communities, including the gender impact from the European floods of 2021 that impacted Belgium, Netherlands, Germany and Luxembourg to a larger extent. And we do see that sometimes even the response and recovery efforts have to be tailored to gender needs. How people get exposed to water-related crises or disaster events in the face of climate change requires tailored interventions. And the response and the recovery team have been following more conventional interventions. So this is one such some examples. Another thing that may be of interest for people interested in looking into the gender aspects in your project is the UNESCO Water and Gender Toolkit. That toolkit has around 101 indicators that you can pick from, that you can apply to your project and activities. And these indicators are already making their way into several national and subnational levels through projects and programs. So I'll put all these links after I conclude, which will be another half a minute, I think, Melika, I have. Another thing that we have done internally, we are around 14 UNO agencies around the world, right from Latin America to Asia, headquartered in Japan. Internally, we work onto a framework, MAGIR, which is Mainstreaming Gender Integration in Research, to see that people who don't have an idea of how to integrate gender in their projects and programs are able to get an understanding of tools, approaches, can work with experts available throughout the system or outside the system. We support research teams, research projects to then do a matchmaking with an expert who can then bring the gender component explicitly. Something that we have learned through this by implementing these strategies, that while it is necessary to have women to have a seat on the table for all representative stakeholders, especially women, it is also important to facilitate meaningful contribution. So not just make people sit in the room, but to also build their capacity to meaningfully contribute to the process. And that requires not only boosting human capacity, but also dedicated funding right from the onset. And one example in that context would be that we contributed to some of the dialogue sessions with the parliamentarian groups around the world, and through one of our networks, where we encourage the parliamentarians to approve budgets that have gender-based indicators, whether they are approving financial budget to projects like water management or energy management or food management. So interventions at all levels only can lead to transformative change that we envision to a gender-sensitive planning and actions, but also a gender to sort of call for gender blind spots, to address gaps and needs, to be able to put women in leadership positions so that they have a seat in the table, they are meaningfully participating, but they're also able to steer the discourse or the narrative to make meaningful change. So maybe I think I'll take a pause here. I'm happy to stay with you to answer any related questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing maybe some new toolkits for some of us. Feel free to share us a link if there is, so we can share it directly in the chat. Thank you one more time. So now we have another great woman from our project VIAC, Meadow Poplavsky. So Meadow, could you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I have some slides as well, so I think maybe go to the next.
They're included.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so hi everyone. Nice to meet you all today. My name is Meadow, and I'm excited to tell you a bit about my work. As Melissa said, I'm currently a PhD at the University of Twente, and here you can see the title of my research for my PhD and also for the WIAC project, integrating the multiple values of water into decision-making for water allocation in transboundary river basins. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, I'll give you a bit of my background and how I ended up in the water sphere. So I'm originally from Idaho in the United States, and I became interested in transboundary river allocation through a project during my international political economy studies. This led to doing a thesis on the links between human security in transboundary water management. So then after that, I did a English teaching assistantship in Chennai in India. And what was really interesting about this is that I was there when the city ran out of water, and I've been privileged enough to come from a place that always had easy water access. So experiencing not being able to access water through a tap and having to buy it separately, and talking to everyone else that was experiencing this was really transformative for me in deciding that I wanted to pursue a career in water and really focus on water allocation and policy and management. So from that, I then did a master's in water science policy and management, and my dissertation was about the Twitter discourse about the 2021 filling of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And that led me here now to the University of Twente in the multidisciplinary water management group. So to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about my current work. So my work is on the values of water, which can be kind of a vague term. So how can we define the values of water? We have a nice definition from the UN High-Level Panel on Water, which says that valuing water means recognizing and considering all the diverse benefits and risks provided by water, and encompassing its economic, social, and ecological dimensions, as well as its diverse cultural and religious meanings. So you can see there are many different values encompassed in this definition. We have economic, cultural, social, ecological, and then there are even more. There's been a lot of effort to measure economic and ecological values, but social and cultural values have been proven more difficult to measure. And they are often, all these values are assessed independently from each other, and not all are included in decision-making processes. So in my PhD, then I want to understand how these values can be understood in the context of each other, but also how they are already included in decision-making for allocation, and how they could be included more explicitly in future decision-making for transboundary river allocation. So to do this, I'm currently creating a serious game about the values of water and allocation for stakeholders in the Sir Darya River Basin to play. And then I will also create a framework integrating different methods for valuing the different values of water. And in the end, we'll integrate this work into scenarios. And yeah, that's what I have. So thanks for listening, and looking forward to the discussions later.
Thank you, Meadow, for this great presentation. And now we are going to hear another young female engineer who is contacting us from the field directly, Saida Usmanova, and she is from Hydro4You project.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am Saida Usmanova. I am from Uzbekistan. Can you just move the next slide? The next one. Yes, I did mechanical engineering for my bachelor degree, and after that, I did in my home country, Uzbekistan. But I really want to get international experience. It's why I went to abroad to study my master's, and I studied for master's degree in a joint program in Europe. It's on the management and engineering of environment and energy. I studied both the energy and environment, both engineering and the management side. During this master degree, I'm really interested on also the water sector, how the water and energy sector is synergizing. That's why I was part of the organizing the seminar about the sustainable solution for small water and wastewater treatment systems organized by the International Water Association. After that, I went to do my master thesis, and I did in International Renewable Energy Agency in Abu Dhabi. Mostly, I worked in energy investments and policy implementation in how we can foster deployment of renewable energy. Especially, I focus on African countries, the developing country, how the policy is important to foster the deployment of renewable energy. And after that, I got the offer, and I stayed in IRENA about 2 years, mostly working on the off-grid renewable energy for solar and biogas in African countries. I did research on policy, which kind of policies is more suitable in developing countries, especially in West North Africa, which investment flows should be work in, why there is investment, why the project is not finishing, what is the problems in what is the course to deploy renewable energy in African countries. After that, after the COVID, there is some reasons I had to come back to my home country. And it was my plan to, when I come back home country, I started to work in, I got offers in energy sector, especially in the government, Ministry of Energy. But when I come back, I heard a lot of the climate change issues also in water is very, very important issue in Central Asia because of the Aral Sea, because of climate. We have upstream countries and downstream countries, all the even from small rivers or canals, all the water is transboundary. And it's all related to work the 5 Central Asian countries together. And I'm really like interested in this water sector. This is why I start working in the International Water Management Institute in Central Asian office. Yeah, I'm currently involving in the Hydro4U, also the same time the React projects. Mostly, I'm working on how this water energy, the water energy challenges, how we can synergize to decrease of trade-off. This nexus analysis I'm involving in currently in the project, how we can collaborate to tackle these trade-offs between water, energy, food, and climate sectors in Central Asia. I will involve a lot of meetings, field trips, meeting a lot of stakeholders, our in the ground, in the doing surveys and analyze how we can work together to work all these like transboundary water resources in Central Asia. Currently, I'm also in a work trip in Fergana Valley, between the ocean in Fergana. It's in a small town. Yeah, I was meeting all the basin authorities, small basin authorities, and also the big basins here in Central Asia, especially in Kyrgyzstan, between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. My main goal is in IVME, also working in Hydro4U, is to work in the water sector, also to help to involve my main goal to work on water sector to tackle the climate change, especially because we can see climate change through our naked eyes, through the water. Actually, I had today's a meeting, and they're saying, in small rivers we have a really shortage, especially there is no water during the very demanded agricultural sector, also for the drinking water. Yeah. Also, I have a few achievements. I participate several big conferences. Also, I am the only female researcher in my office in IVME Central Asia. You can see in the pictures. It's sometimes challenging only being a female in office, and also traveling all time in water sector in Central Asia, mostly in energy and water sector, mostly the male dominant sector. Whenever I will go, all the meetings I'm the only single woman actually. Yeah. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, introducing myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Seda. Thank you so much for telling us more about your role. So now next slide, Melina, please. So now we will hear the Professor Tubayeva, and she will tell us more about engineering and ecology and environment. So Professor, please, the floor is yours.
Hello for everyone again. I prepared a little presentation My name is Nurzat Totubaeva. I'm associate professor of environmental engineering department, and at the same time dean of engineering faculty of Kyrgyz-Turkish Manas University. And with a little introducing title of my presentation, my title is "It Will Be Late Tomorrow, Act Today." Next slide, please. My research area is environmental risk assessment, environmental monitoring, development of measures and strategies for sustainable development of aquatic and soil ecosystems. Next slide, please. I grew up in the spectacular place in Kyrgyzstan, where the beauty of nature cannot leave anyone indifferent. Next slide, please. Beautiful mountains, streams, forests, the beauty of the pearl of Central Asia Lake Issyk has always beckoned me with its beauty and purity. Next slide, please. But the desire to increase well-being by transforming ecosystems using brown economy methods made me very upset. So I decided to work on the conservation of natural ecosystems and developing methods to generate economic and social benefits by conserving natural ecosystems and to sensitize the public and the young generation about the importance of conservation-based practices. Next slide, please. Working for more than 30 years in the fields of environmental protection, I realized that only a woman with her natural sensitivity and creativity can deeply feel the state of Mother Earth and its ecosystems and propose effective measures for its preservation. Next. Our team has conducted research on the importance of conserving coastal ecosystems and their significance for water quality conservation, using Lake Issyk as an example. We are committed to the idea that humans should conserve at least 30% of natural coastal ecosystems to preserve water quality, and are working towards this goal using various ecological indices and criteria. Next slide, please. We aim to focus on nature-based solutions to increase resilience, contribute to real sustainable solutions, and positively impact biodiversity and community well-being. We look forward to seeing in our team, and also it's great to work and conduct in this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for allocating your time and for telling us more about what are you doing and for such a great inspirational quote. Okay, and now it's time for someone who is making water skills and advancing them. So Naomi Timur, could you please join us and tell us more about you?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Yeah, I also had some slides just to spice it up a bit in the webinar so you have something to look at while I share my story. And I'm not working in academics, but a lot with academics, so, and especially a lot with female academics as well. I have an SME based in the Netherlands. It's called H2O People, and we focus on the human factor of working in water. I have myself a background in political science and religious studies, so I'm more into the complexity between human behavior, power structures, and all those, well, more soft power, yeah, that supports and makes our society, and also within the water. I have myself, well, not been interested in the water sector from the start of my career. I kind of happened to end up there. Well, in my early career, I met with a friend of mine who was working with the water sector as an artist. So it already brought me to the water sector from a completely different background, the artist Ab Verheggen. And he's making art with climate and on positive climate and behavioral change while using art. And I had the honor to be his communication and project advisor for a while. And that ended me up into the water sector in supporting young water professionals in finding their way, and also finding the way within the different genders, I would say. We had groups of all men, sometimes just one woman involved in the groups. And I can already tell you now that I often have groups mainly existing from women, but maybe we go into that later as well, into the development. So I have been active within the water sector for over 10 years now. And in 2019, I became active with the SME I run, which created me a business owner in the water sector, which indeed is, I'm one of very few females in that sense, active as such. And also from another perspective than the engineering part. So that's also something to take into consideration, that you're still a bit a stranger in this whole field of water developments. And as you can see, I developed 2 different programs. The European Junior Water Program was our first program that we developed. This June we will exist for 5 years, in which we really support young water professionals to find their way and to have a more interactive collaboration with each other. And with the Blue Innovation Track we developed last year, it was after the quest of the young professionals, but also of the more advanced professionals that were guiding them. Yes, you're training now our young professionals in better collaboration, empowerment skills, finding their way. But if we won't change our work culture as advanced professionals, the young professionals, we can train them whatever we want, but they need an ecosystem that also encourage them to change and to develop that more integrated skill as well. And on the bottom row of the slide, I presented the projects we're actively integrating this skills approach in the water sector as well. And for example, within iMermaid, which is a Horizon project, we're not only attaching the capacity building program, so the support of the community that is working on the innovation within iMermaid and within the water sector, but we also connect it to social impact assessment, and that it is a sustainability question. And I can give you an answer. Yes, most of the participants within the program and that are interested to take up this social responsibility, those are the women. So that integrated approach, that getting their work forward, it's often women that are taking up that quest as well and being empowered by it. Within Waterline, we look into the soft skill development and needs that there are to have it integrated in with the digital transition. So if we're talking about augmented reality and artificial intelligence, how are we as human beings going to deal with that? And with Skills for Water, it was young female scientists that come together and said, we need to change something about our educational system as well to provide soft skills within the water sector to be able to connect in the right way for the future. And we try to empower them. If we go to the next slide, I will keep it as short as possible. We try to empower them because I'm not a scientist. We try to implement things. So what we do, we develop capacity building programs together with societal impact programs on these 3 pillars. So we always encourage and empower the knowledge of participants, because there's so much wisdom and there's so much that can be shared, but it's often so difficult to share and to come up. We talk about co-creation, but how do you really do that with different backgrounds, as a multidisciplinary approach, or with outsiders as citizens or from industry? How do you really bring them together? And we train them, if we go all the way to the other side, with personal and professional skills to be able to do that as well, so that it really empowers them to bring the knowledge forward. And of course, we can talk to each other, but then we don't go any further as well. So we need to network. We need to create the opportunities like this to share who we are, what we can offer, and to also learn and keep learning as well within that network and social interaction, because that's what makes us human beings and bring it forward as well. I think this is it for now. And if there are questions, I will put some links in the chat. And then I think the last slide is just if someone wants to contact, feel free.
Naomi, thank you so much for sharing this with us. But I know that you have more insights on the education and skill building part that I'm looking forward to.
It's a bit hard in 5 minutes.
Yes, I know. Okay, so now, Nana, could you please go to the next slide? So now we have Hannah that you already met at the beginning of the webinar, presenting the Hydro4U project, but now she will present herself. So Hannah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, you can move on. I have one slide also prepared just to have something to look at. Yeah, hello again. You have met me before. Maybe now I talk about more about myself and my background. I did my bachelor and my master degree in environmental engineering at TUM, so same university I'm still at. And especially during my master degree, I realized that I'm really interested in fluvial processes from the engineering perspective, but especially in the context of sustainability and ecosystem protection. And you've heard about the project I'm working in. And within Hydro4U, I focus on the influence of small hydropower on the river morphology and on sediment transport. And I think this is a major aspect of sustainability regarding hydropower plants. And I think it became even more important when we selected the Atbashi River in Kyrgyzstan as a site for demonstrating our technologies. You can see the picture in the upper part, which is actually the existing structure I was also talking about, which is used to divert water for irrigation. And it will now be renovated and equipped with a small hydropower module. And yeah, from the morphological perspective of this river, I think it's highly interesting that it is located in a highly active morphological river, which you can see from an aerial picture at the lower picture. And yeah, when I first saw the site, I realized that the river, besides the hydraulic structure, which is already there, is still in a kind of natural condition. And this is completely different from what I'm used to, what I know from almost all rivers in Europe. And this was actually was fascinating me, the idea to produce hydropower still in a river, which can be left as close as possible in its natural form, and which where we can reduce the anthropogenic impacts largely. And this is why I try to focus my research on this specific site. I am a PhD student, and yeah, using Hydro4U to do my research in this field. Regarding female employees in my field, within the Hydro4U project, we are at the moment 4 people from our chair, and I am the only female in this group. And for the chair in general, we are 27 people, including professors, senior researchers, PhDs, and a large technical and assistant staff group. And here we are in total 6 women, where only 3 of them are researchers, 2 PhDs and 1 senior researcher. So still, even though we are in Germany, in a highly developed country, I think we are still kind of underrepresented in the research positions. And I realized that during my study and from also my teaching experience, I realized that in the studies, it is a bit different. So there are many female students in the area of environmental as well as civil engineering. But yeah, as I mentioned, they are sadly underrepresented in the research positions. And yeah, this is why I think it is necessary to encourage all female students and to also consider really a career in research, because I think it's a really interesting way of work. You can work mostly autonomously, focusing on your own research interest. And yeah, you can gain deep knowledge in your research field and also learn a lot about soft skills and project management, communication, presentation. So yeah, I think we do have some responsibility to encourage, especially our female students, also to promote them, to let them know that they are doing a good work, that they are able to focus a career in research as well, and to be self-confident, to sell themselves. And yeah, I would like to have that as a kind of take-home message for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah, so much for your amazing conclusion. So now we are going to hear the community founder of Women in Water, and who is she?
Hi, so my name is Catherine Farr. I've just put some links to the community and contact information for me in the chat for everyone. I want to say thank you again for having me. This has been an amazing and impressive panel, and it's kind of nice to go last because I've been able to just listen and be very impressed with the other women who've gone before me. And they've said so many amazing things. My background is a bit mixed. So I'm an American who now lives in London, and so I've worked on 2 different continents, plus international projects that I've worked on. But I studied international relations and chemistry and got a master's in analytical chemistry, and thought that I was going potentially to do water quality, and life kind of went in a different direction. And I realized that I didn't enjoy being in the laboratory, and that was okay. I really like people. And while people are really challenging, right? Like when you think about all the projects you work on, there are the technical issues, but most of the time you're having to think about these soft skills and people, and how does this connect to that, and what are we thinking about? And I've worked on science policy, and so I became a policy person. I work on water science policy, specifically water and climate, and I've done that. I've had a very flowing career, right? So I think a lot of times, if you're a researcher, you feel like you've got a very clear-cut path. You're going to get your PhD, you're going to do a postdoc, you're going to do a second postdoc, you're going to get that lectureship. You know, you can see where you're going. And when I realized that I wanted to do something beyond academia, that just sort of led to work on transboundary water cooperation and project management, and then ended up working on water and climate issues with the Alliance for Global Water Adaptation. I worked on some research at the University of Oxford. I worked with Arab on their resilient cities, looking at water and resilience and climate. I spent the last 2 years working at WaterAid, bringing a climate lens to their water sanitation and hygiene work, doing a report around gender, doing a report on climate and WASH, and then doing a report around climate and sanitation, and kind of bringing the messages of sanitation to the fore, working on both of those reports with lots of amazing colleagues. But about 5 years ago, I had enough of a break in my schedule to finally admit to myself that I have been talking to several female friends who were also water colleagues about we really need to create a group to connect all of us, because we don't all go to the same conferences. We're all working on slightly different issues, but we know all of these different types of water issues are related. And if we could talk about that, that would be really helpful for our work. We could come up with innovative ideas. We could have a safe space to complain or talk or problem solve if we're the only women on our team, which I've heard several of the women here today already say that the only woman. And that comes with its unique challenges. It comes with some great opportunities sometimes. So but I've been talking to people about this for several years and finally realized I had a moment where I could add this to my to-do list and just see how it went. So about 5 years ago, I founded a LinkedIn group that's become a network called the Community of Women in Water. We're now over 1,000 women around the world. We've got academics and policymakers, researchers, practitioners, social scientists, physical scientists, sort of everyone that works on water. So really diverse group of women from Oceania to the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, who all can come together and meet each other and talk about what they're working on, talking about how to connect. Oh, I didn't know you worked on that kind of project. Oh, I never thought that gender was relevant to the work I was doing. I thought it was this thing over here. Oh, we haven't actually thought about adding climate to our work, right? And that gives these women an opportunity to really expand their professional impact, really come up with innovative ideas, they can be more impactful in their job and in solving the water challenges we all face in our different positions, but also providing that support that organizations don't always know how to provide when it comes to working with a minority group, right? And we know that women are about 17% or less of all water employees globally, right? So even though we're not a minority in the population, we are in this sector. And so thinking about kind of how all of that can come together. And I think probably everyone on this call is familiar that in the 90s, the World Bank did some research and they found that water sector projects that included women working on the projects were 6 times more effective than those that didn't, right? So there's a real need here. It's about gender equality, but it's also about solving water challenges. And if we know that having women on those teams is going to make a better project, then we need to be working to provide women with what they need to be able to do those jobs. There's so many amazing water jobs. A lot of people, men and women now we see have more flowing careers. We don't all just do academic research for our entire career. Sometimes we start, then we go do something else, then we come back to it. There are a lot more avenues, but you want to encourage women to be able to feel like they can take those and make those changes. So that's my hope that the community provides for people. And I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so now we are finished with our introduction role model session. So we feel like we know you now. Then we invite this as a discussion session. But as we have a pretty tight schedule today, we prepared some questions for you in advance. So now, Nevena, could you please start with the question? Yes. So Naomi, I would like to start with you and with education part, as you have a significant role in developing personal development programs, and you are making like foster talent, advancing in the sector. So, and you have a multidisciplinary background as well. I would like to hear more about, have you observed any significant changes in gender dimensions since you started till now? And what is your perspective on the current gender inclusiveness? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I think I didn't mention in my introduction, I'm not sure. I'm leading for Water Europe, the working group on human capital. So we try to get at least a vision of what's the current status in Europe. And within these conferences, when I started to go there 10 years ago, and even more specific when I entered there as an entrepreneur myself 5 years ago, I was still one of those few crazy people, at least in not dark blue suit, that's trying to walk around and feel okay with that. And while I look now, I see much more color and much more different types of clothing and styles when I go to conferences. So that's the diversity is changing. Is it already there? No, definitely not. But there is a development, and the awareness is rising on gender issues, on inclusiveness of youth, of other types of diversity. So there is development, there is awareness. We talk about it, maybe even too much. We talk about it a lot, but we don't really act. And what does that mean then if we act? Do we really ask about what the needs are of these new groups coming in? And do we also take them as serious as we take the old groups? So those are things, yes, there is development, but we're not there yet. And for example, last year I organized within the concept of the European Junior Water Programme, we also support conferences and events to some sort of a mini boot camp around a conference. So we train them, young professionals, to come and feel okay, to have personal leadership, to know about intercultural communication. How does it work when you enter a conference? What are you doing there? What is it that you want to get out of it? And how will you act upon that? And then we are there together. So we're also a group of peers. So you feel a bit more safe, and you can always check if its behavior is okay. Yes, no, can I do that? So the one interesting thing about, since I do that around conferences, 80% of my participants in those boot camps are women. And one of the conferences, we had a group of only women. And they really felt empowered by being able to have peers with them to check and to have the balances. And in that way, you also give them the opportunity to speak up and to be of added value and let their voices heard. So yes, there is development, but we still need to push. And especially positive empowerment, I would say, is very important. And to take people serious. When I need to create a webinar, I'm working on a webinar for next week, and I wrote down who I wanted there, and I turned out all female. So I need to work on the other way around to make sure that I have also an inclusiveness of other genders. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to really take it serious. I think still there are some twitching eyebrows if you bring up the gender issue as well. Yeah, so is it all perfect? No. Let's hope that with the empowerment, we can show how much we know. And as what we see within the development of the educational system, that females are taking over more and more of the higher education system. I think in the industry, in the end, they have to come up with that as well, since we need the people. So let's hope they also will take them serious. Yeah.
Okay, and just quickly, because yeah, did you notice that those kind of the initiatives contribute to promoting equality and diversity? Did they did something in the past, like?
Well, yes. For example, and the project that was now Skills for Water was initiated by people that wanted to participate within the program, but they weren't able to. And then they just came together. Okay, then we need to make a project out of it, and we just want to go there. And then that project was the highest ranked. So then the organizations have to go with it because the project won. So you're also, by giving the opportunity, you're forcing development as well within organizational impact. Even if it's sometimes, especially on that organizational part, it might be even harder than on the personal empowerment part.
Thank you. Thank you.
And please feel free to comment. Like.
Yeah, of course, if someone else has a comment, jump in. Okay, so when we talked about education, we started with that, then we went a bit about initiatives, and here we have someone who is in water, but also in the ecological part of the water. Nevena, could you please go to the next slide? So we have Professor Nuzat Totubaeva. She is now the Dean of the Engineering Faculty at Kyrgyz Turkish Management University. She has a vast of experience in the environmental protection, ecological microbiology, eco-monitoring. But what we would like to ask her, what is the status with those kind of initiatives in Kyrgyzstan? And especially if there are some of them that are led by women, that involve and gender equality and similar. And can you comment, like, why is that important? Like, would that change something in the sustainability? How did you find it from your perspective?
Thank you very much. Really, Kyrgyzstan has implemented very interesting and useful projects, including under the leadership and participation of women. But we still have few women in decision-making positions, especially in water and land issues. But in Kyrgyzstan, we have a lot of experts, women experts that are very powerful, but they work in education field, expertise in green economy, but unfortunately less in how I say in making decision-making sectors. Also, yeah, we have that's why what I and in Kyrgyzstan implemented a lot of projects that that help conserve the say historical and I'm sorry I can't prepare this question unfortunately. Sorry for my bad English, but there are implemented a lot of nature-based solutions to protect ecosystems. And I hope we have a lot of good examples, especially in how to save the soil and water ecosystems, but unfortunately that a lot of decisions made in government and how many project ideas they can implement in real life. This is a big question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, it's always the question what is on paper and what we can implement in the end, what will be in the end as well.
Melissa, you're mute.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So we discussed the cross-continental situation, and now we can maybe discuss the worldwide situation about especially water and migration. So Dr. Midi, you've been the part of the working group, and we would like to ask you like how the water scarcity is impacting the vulnerable communities, but also because we know that the impact is not the same on the women, so it's disproportional. How this impacts women? What strategy do you believe that we can take, that should be taken in like a really global level to prevent this and to make this like a long-term solution?
Thank you, Marika, and I'm glad that you have raised this quite under-reflected dimension in water governance, water-induced migration, and forced displacement. Well, we've been studying this for past around 10 years when the UN was asked to organize the New York Declaration of 2018. That was the first time that that was a trigger to the Global Compact on Migration. This is a new international framework that many countries have signed to a global compact to understand various direct and indirect drivers to human mobility patterns, which could be voluntary migration, which could be forced displacement. There are several examples and case studies that bring to light how these conditions or settings are manifested. And we looked, already shared a report in the chat. We looked into at least 6 case studies. I'll maybe at least give you 1 or 2 examples. One is a very famous case study of the Aral Sea. Well, everyone sees it as a hydrological disaster, but very few studies highlighted the forced displacement or voluntary migration it led to because of health concerns, medium to long-term health concerns that resulted in the region because of that hydrological disaster, but also because of loss of livelihood and income generation for communities because of that event. There are other examples that we also highlight. One is the Lake Chad, again, a source of larger regional conflicts, even an inter-regional conflict between Africa and Europe because of the migration patterns that the 2 regions or 2 continents have seen as a result of drying of the Sahel. And that cascades into geopolitical tensions, maybe violent settings in the Chad Basin because there are many users and the water allocation policies and what transboundary water governance is not transparent. These are some aspects, but let's see the case of someone in a success story. Well, there are stories that call for attention. There are also stories that refer to best practices. One of the stories of best practice is the water sharing arrangement between the Great Lakes in Canada and US, where joint monitoring is conducted. Water qualities of the Great Lakes, the 5 lakes that the 2 large countries share, is done jointly. There is a joint research commission that takes projects and activities. So this is a sort of a good story of managing large water resources between two large nations. Also a story from our own place where we live in Europe. I think we do see that it has advanced in terms of transboundary coordination agreements and implementation of those agreements. But we do see that some of these agreements remain very limited, their scope. So let's see the sort of the legal, the regulatory norms, they remain limited in scope. So we need to revisit them from a climate resilient water development. We saw it from the European floods of 2021 that the Moose River Commission, which also is authority to look into water related events, don't have clauses related to disaster prevention, disaster risk governance tied with water bodies and water ecosystems. So sort of also revisiting delegation of authority, who can act, how, especially in the this context of climate related or climate triggered water crisis. Then also gaps in competencies. So traditionally you have engineers or hydrologists in administrative jobs related to transboundary or national water governance. So sort of diversifying that to have much more softer aspects like behavioral science or psychologists to understand the behavioral patterns of communities, how they perceive risk, climate risk, water risk. What decisions do they make? Do they really want to live just nearby the water, or they want to? You can also revisit the urban policies. For example, in Canada, the real estate, because I've lived a long time in Canada, I sometimes quote more examples from there. The real estate value of housing or property overlooking a lake in the watershed, in the lake, is very high because of the perception of the risk is very low. So it's inversely correlated. So I think these are different but nuanced aspects that we need to bring to national water governance, regional water governance, and global water governance. And so similarly, many policies are also pretty gender blind. We are trying to look to see that those gaps and needs can be brought to the forefront, can be discussed at different levels, regional, again at national. Resources are available through the UN system and other experts and agencies around the world. The idea is to operationalize the knowledge that the scientists, that the projects and programs across regions and globe are generating, to create a channel with the policymakers to be cognizant that we need transformative change and we need it fast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we learned a lot of new things today. I'm muted, I'm sorry. I'm talking and I thought, Nevena, could you please go to the next one? Okay, so you heard today, Saida is here with us, and what she was telling us about is the transition in her career to more the field-based roles, different than her previous pathway, and we saw more women in the labs, but on the field trips, like there is not so much women that are choosing the same pathway. So maybe you Miss Saida, you said some things that were challenging for you. Could you please like tell us a bit more? And how did you overcome these challenges? Was this journey a bit lonely?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, it's working in the field, especially in a male-dominated environment, comes with a set of challenges, little bit. Is also like only female researcher in IVME, often find myself being like single woman during trips, in meeting our stakeholders, because in some of our projects we have demonstration, we have to travel between mountains. And I have in Central Asia we don't have really good the transportation, and I have to travel with men in 6 hours, sometimes 10 hours between the countries. Also going to the demonstration site. And yeah, there is some challenges, and also it's also helping me to work on that, especially gender issues exist in Central Asia. Also, these challenges become more also the acknowledgement of these difficulties also emphasize the need for proactive measures to create more supportive atmosphere, ensuring the woman in the field is safe. Also, the empowering the woman, also the valuing the woman in the field, especially field-based projects in Central Asia, especially water sector. As I told you, all the waters is transboundary in Central Asia. We have to, for example, just cross the borders. It takes time. Also, sometimes some challenges. These challenges also strengthens my gender barriers in the field of water in energy sector in Central Asia. To navigate these challenges, I focused on building strong network. Also, the partnership with colleagues who shared a commitment to diversity and inclusion, also who has overcome similar challenges. Also, the connecting with like-minded professionals within the AVME in my organization or outside of AVME. Also, this is really provided valuable insight, also encouragement to me. Also this kind of networking also provide me the guidance, support, also the insights on overcoming this kind of obstacles. I also develop my education, enhance my technical experts to especially standing among the men, and I need to study a lot, learn a lot. Also this is also increasing my confidence, also help me challenge any pre-existed beliefs about the woman's capability in the field work, especially energy in the water sector. It's crucial, I think, for women in similar position to seek continuous learning and establish themselves in their role models. My advice to who has the same experience to embrace the uniqueness of their journey. Also, don't be afraid to step out of the traditional roles and also explore opportunities that align with your, passions. Considering these initiatives in seeking the mentorship, build support network, also believing in your capabilities to contribute your unique perspectives to the projects also you're involving. By actively participating in these projects. Also, the empowering women especially in Central Asia in the water sector, it's crucial for organizations to actively promote diversity, also inclusions. By creating supportive environment, we can also encourage more women to pursue also in the field with based roles, also the sustainable development in Central Asia, because more than 50% of the people living in rural area, and I can say in our projects in between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, mostly the water distribution or in general, it's affecting to the women and children really much. Because also considering the climate change in Central Asia. Also, reducing the water, it's opportunity for women pursue education, generate income, also developing skills in Central Asia. That's why it's, I think, encouraging the women in not only the in a work sector, also encouraging women and children in Central Asia, I think is very important, because women is more, really affecting in Central Asia. Usually we can see because of the all the cookings by women, also the caring the children. They're sometimes carrying the water like few hours per day because there is no supply water at home. You need to just travel little bit. For example, sometimes like 1 kilometer in some villages. Can you imagine? You just carry the drinking water in Central Asia. This is why I think it's very important issues. Is all this gender, also the children in water sector in Central Asia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. So we need to be the little bit wrap up with the questions. So, okay, maybe we can go further. Yes, it's for our coordinator, Shui Huang. So, considering that our project is focused on transboundary water sector, maybe you can tell us and comment like your insights on the current gender equality in the water allocation process, and maybe how can we do and contribute what we can do actually for more equitable and sustainable management of transboundary water resources.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I think I will just be brief. I think Saida already mentioned these aspects in water allocation in Central Asia, so the gender aspect. I think one thing that she mentioned especially important is the women and children and vulnerable community in terms of water scarcity and uneven water distribution. I think Zaida probably has more to say about the region, but from my observation, since we were there several times and meeting the colleagues in Central Asia, the water sector is still very strongly dominated by males. I think it's just one thing nice is to have the female role models. Like Saida said that she's the only one in the office, in the meeting office. And I also know our advisory board member, Dina Ratzingerina. She is also one of the few female leadership in the water sector. I think these role models are super important by challenging also the traditional gender norms and the stereotypes. And also, sorry, I think bringing females' perspective can also help solving the water conflicts. Sorry, especially in Central Asia. These countries, especially Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, always Kazakhstan also always have some water conflicts.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think a female's perspective is definitely very important. I think help solving these water conflicts and also bringing another way of thinking. And I think to make sure the females' voice to be heard, that is also basic human right, and also that also means a more inclusive society and also more other vulnerable groups suffering water issues would be heard in a more inclusive society. Yes, I think water connects everything. That's my feeling. It's a very interdisciplinary field. You see, we have different scientists from different fields, engineers, social scientists, and so on. I think education for the young females and especially higher education is also super important. I personally like working also a lot with female students. They're always as good or even better than my male students. So I'm really happy and willing to support the female students, and that's one of my missions in my career as a higher education educator in the universities. So yeah, I think that's all the points I want to make. And I think in the WEAC projects, it's just a little bit, of course, we always consider the gender issue. Also in our stakeholder meetings, we try to balance the gender equality. We want to make sure that there's always female representatives in our stakeholder meetings. And I think maybe Meadow will also say something in the serious game, the gender dimension. So yes, this is, we really value this a lot. And in our project, we also try to consider this gender dimension. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for speaking even your throat hurts. Okay. So now, Nelena, could you please go to the next slide? We have the previous slide, Nelena? No, the previous, the slide before. No, before. Yeah. So one more question for someone from our project who actually brings a lot of interdisciplinarity into water challenges and into value of water, and who is someone who is sitting with the stakeholder, and it's really great in those meetings actually. So Meadow, from your journey, what thoughts or advice would you share with other young women who may be considering a career that is more male dominated?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I thought about this a bit, and I think in reflecting on this question, the advice that I would give to other young women considering a career in water management or other similar fields with limited female representation is to find others, be them women or with a different identity that's not part of the core group, and to support each other, build your own networks and work together to support each other through being in these fields. Like, I can't underscore enough the importance of having support systems in your work, in your school, in your research. And then within that vein, find other women to be your mentors. There, as you've seen in this call, are so many people doing really cool stuff in this field. And so it really is great to look out for people that you look up to and would like to maybe be in a similar position and look for their advice and help. And then also, I think it's important to find a personal connection to the topic and some intrinsic motivation. And this you can remember when things are hard. And then lastly, this has been said a lot of times, and I think, Jingshui gave some good stuff on this too, but your voice is really valuable. How can we develop inclusive and effective solutions if we don't have half the population represented in decision-making contexts? And we know the female perspective is often missing from these solution decisions. And so, just remember your voice is very much needed, and this will really transform the future of water management. So reach out and find your support systems and your mentors and make use of the networks that are existing.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe we can go to the next question now. Okay, this one is for Hannah. So Hannah, we already heard that you are a big contributor to the Harder for Your project, really, really important engineer. You're someone that is combining the advanced engineering solution and environmental sustainability. And considering this landscape, could you say why this is in the interdisciplinarity approaches are really important? Could you mention maybe some important research project that you find it particularly promising in the global water challenges, and how women, both scientifically and policy making, can contribute to this area?
Thank you again. Regarding projects, I think maybe the two main or maybe three main points are that we need international projects, because we can only learn from each other, from other countries, from other cultures, even especially in water-related problems. We always need to have the local expertise, but also we can learn from other places around the world. And also find optimal solutions by combining this knowledge from all over the world. And this is why we need to have this international exchange. Also from the empowering women perspective, I think having cultural diversity in the institutes who are linked within the project also can lead to gender diversity in the people in the projects as well. So this is, I think, a main point, and especially for water-related projects, this is of high importance. And then another thing, as you already mentioned, we need to have interdisciplinary ways here as well. So also here we can only learn from each other. We can only combine knowledge. We can improve this by with interdisciplinary teams. We can only find a holistic, optimal solutions, and that's the only way we can move forward. Since we, and this is maybe the last aspect, since we have to focus on sustainability, since we have to see how the world is developing and how it is changing, also with changing climate. So we need to combine all of the cultures, all of the countries, all of our knowledge to find a way to somehow challenge this problems. And regarding maybe the contribution of women in such projects, I think we cannot really reduce the female contribution to any certain areas or specific fields. So we have to create projects where women can be part in all of the different positions in there. So starting from scientific assistants, but also researchers, leaders, the managers, coordinators, as we heard from all the women here. So we have to be in all of the positions. We have to create projects which are actually designed to have female and male employees, so somehow it creates this equality in the people we have in the projects. And because this is also, we can only benefit from different perspectives, different skills. And as we heard, there are studies that projects are much more efficient when women are involved. So I think this is the only way to go. And we, as women already taking part in the water sector, we can only encourage, empower other women, and as we just heard, also network together and support ourselves. This is, I think, the most important way to have effective water management project as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah, so much. Okay, and for the last question, we want to hear the community aspect of what is the organization, what step organizations should take for the more inclusive and supportive environment. And what do you sometimes, as a community founder, feel the pressure that you need to do more, that you need to support other?
And thanks. So I will try to answer a little bit. I'll start with the community, and I will try to go very quickly because I recognize we're a bit over time. I do always feel pressure that I should be doing about 87,000 things to promote women working in water, but I recognize that every organization out there can do a piece, but no one group can do it all. And so that sort of helps me when I consider that. But when we think about what organizations, particularly companies, can do, there's a lot, right? It's very, I don't want to say it's easy because it's still something we're all working on, right? To have people consider gender when they're creating the project and looking at gender within the decision making. But when we look at organizational structures, you do find water water organizations that are very good about considering gender for projects or considering gender in the academic research, but they haven't internalized it as an organization. And so I think we need to review systems, looking at the basics, so sort of a baseline. At a level, are men being paid more than women for doing the same level of work? And how do you go back and how do you fix those policies? Looking at pay and promotion restrictions. When do people get promotions? Is there a culture that you ask for the promotion? Does everyone know that? Is it part of the discussion of the annual review? How do you prepare people for their annual review, if that's something the organization does, so that everyone can be in a position of feeling like they're comfortable negotiating, they're comfortable talking about it, they're comfortable raising up the fact that they think they deserve a pay raise, or they think they would like to take on a promotion or a management project, and making sure that people know that. Because we know that men tend to do that. And women tend to need a bit of encouragement to do that, right? So looking at kind of creating policies and processes within the organization to help balance that equality, and making sure, and this is the second piece, is really making culture count. So a lot of times we need to figure out, does the culture work for everyone? You might have great policies in place as an organization, but does everyone, has everyone internalized those policies? Has everyone really thought through, okay, every line manager has been trained, they all understand our parental leave policy, they're all encouraging this, they understand this part of the policy, whatever it is, how do we do promotions and pay, as I mentioned earlier? And then is that collected? And just to comment that culture is about peers, it's not just about managers. So everyone together makes a culture. So you need everyone in the organization to buy into the policies and the processes for equality once they're initiated and implemented. And I think that's a big place in the interim, because that is a really heavy lift. Like, to truly do that is a heavy lift. As Meadow said earlier, you need your own support structure. And I like to think the community of women in water has supported a lot of women who don't always have that at work, or who are looking to build that at work, but also to have it externally. And so I see there's a question in the chat about how to join. I'll put that in the group, but I will need to leave shortly. So thank you all so much. This has been really amazing and an inspiring day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your insights. And maybe you can just answer it now if you want. Just quickly, how can someone join the community of women in water? Or you can,
Okay, no, yeah. So you can join our LinkedIn group. But what I'll do is I'll put a link in that has a connect, and it has all the different information on how to join as a member, how to follow us on Twitter, and all of that. So we do have our next event on Tuesday, so we'd love to see some of y'all there. Thank you.
You will see us for sure. I think I already subscribed, so I'm registered, yeah. Okay, this is it. Now we have a short and brief Q&A session. So if anyone has some questions for our speakers who are still here, feel free to ask or leave the comments in the chat, and maybe we can answer you afterwards. I think there is no questions for now. I think, well, we already shared some insights in the chat during the webinar, which is great, and I think we did some good networking. So thank you for participating. Thank you for being the speaker today, and hopefully we will collaborate and see each other again at this nice occasion.
Thank you so much for the organization. Yeah, we should keep in touch. It's a really nice session today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.